spent quite a bit of time talking about a lot of things, and we can talk about this for ages, because once you get this number of people here, it's like comedians are always, we've been talking non-stop since you guys got like landed in the country, and it's amazing. It's good insights. But I wanted us to have an opportunity to have a Q&A with some of the comedians who are actually in the audience. These guys are here for distant relatives. By the time you guys watch this, the show would already have been done. But thank you to everyone who's buying tickets. Thank you to everyone who's coming out to support. Thank you to the comedians who are actually here, because they're the ones who are actually working the gig. So we are opening up the floor for questions. Anyone who wants to basically have a question can put their hand up, and we can choose, and we can try and go through this, because these gentlemen also have a TV interview, so it would be good for us to basically save some of these insights for people who actually pay for their own TVs, not you guys who are watching free to air. So anyone who has any questions with regard, I want to start with a question by a person who's not here right now, but he sent in his question earlier on, and his first question was, oh, not that. His first question was very simple. What separates a great comedian from an average comedian, from all your experiences? Let's keep this short. Let me start with Evans.
Great, unrelenting, and I think really diving into your own personal character. Don't try and be like someone else. Yeah. But be the best version of you possible.
Oh, that's deep.
Yeah. But also always be a learner, because there's always someone to give you something extra.
Yes.
You know, I learned something from Ian. I learned something from Deo. Right. I won't do it the way they do it, but if I add on to my repertoire, it makes me that extra.
Nice.
Yeah, don't conform to a certain formula or system. Or, don't have blinders.
Ian?
I mean, I agree with what Evan said, and also for me, it's just an average comedian to me is just somebody who's been. I think it's just the time you've been doing it. I think if you do it long enough and you put in the work, you can reach your level of greatness. I come from a place where it's all about how long you've been doing it and how much you do it. Like if we do the Kobe Bryant mentality, where you just work on it, and if you do it long enough, I think you become great. That's it.
Ndumiso.
These guys, they just knocked it out the park, man. Be yourself. Be yourself. I always say, out of 5 new comedians, you need to be that one that sticks out. Yeah. You know? I know you're going to go through the process of, because you're going to watch a lot of YouTube and whatever, Def Jam this and whatever, and then you're going to end up sounding, but you're not even realizing that. Yeah. You're going to end up sounding like the comic that you look up to, or whoever, you know.
We've actually had a lot of that here, where people chameleon other comedians, yes.
You know, but it's a phase that you go through, you know. Yeah. But the sooner you are out of that phase, the better. And find what you're about, who you are, and what you want to talk about, the better.
Nice.
So be yourself.
Deo?
Yeah, I think on top of that, it will be who you are doing it. So that will go back to your character. Yeah. Because apart from us being artists, apart from us being comedians, we are also other things. We are human beings. So there's that aspect of being a human being and being a better version of yourself as a person. Because you see, man, these people are also looking, your audience is not only looking for the jokes, but they're looking, as I say, to see themselves in you, to learn a few things from you and stuff. So I guess if you also build your character and your personality, it's also very important to make you not only a great comedian, but also a great man, sort of, because they sort of shade into one another.
I think one of the things that I've learned over the years from like watching amazing comedians and being around amazing comedians and performing is that the thing that separates average comedians from great comedians is, number one, the work ethic. You need to put in the work. You need to be able to take this as seriously as you take anything else. That's number one. But also what Evan said with the openness to learning. And that openness to learning comes with a lot of respect. I've seen comedians who would want to learn from you, but they have no respect for you. And in order for you to learn from someone, you must be able to sit at the feet of this person and try and learn. So my words would be the hard work, but also the humility to be able to understand that a person who's been doing it for 10, 15, 20, 70 years can still learn from a person who just started doing it. there's wisdom in each place. You just need to be able to be humble enough to look for it.
I was asking the guys because just to tell the people who are watching, we saw the guys perform. When was it?
On Wednesday.
On Wednesday, we saw them perform at Two Grapes, and I was just asking the guys, like, after you got off stage that night, what did you learn and what did you want to fix?
Yes.
You know, and I could see some of them, they were like shocked by that question. But you should always have that, even if you had a good night. You know, you should always go back to your book. You know, and be like, oh, this gag
didn't land as
dope.
well.
Yeah, didn't land, or this one landed so nice. What else can I put in? Which angle? You should always ask yourself that, so you're not comfortable with that 5 minutes that you did there, and then you keep doing it. Sometimes you need to switch it around. Take your last gag and bring it to the front, or take whatever, and switch things around and see how that sequence goes. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just refreshes your mind.
Okay, so now to the gallery. Anyone who has any questions, please put your hand up and we can go. Yes, Eugene Nam, step up to the microphone. Let us know what your thoughts are. I like how Eugene just plugged himself into the podcast. Like, thank you. My name is Eugene Nam. My ID number, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so we are living in an era of backlash and cancel culture. Is it something that you're always conscious about or worry about when you're writing or performing? And then the second part...
just one question, please, Nam. We have a lot of people, so I think we can spare some of those for other people as well, please.
Thank you.
Who would want to take this one? Because I want us to be able to...
let me take that
Yes.
one. Coming from Tanzania, being in Kenya, I'm surprised you guys can talk about your presidents. Tanzania, we're not there yet. You can talk about your president positively, about your leaders positively, but you have to be careful how you tread. So there's always these T's and C's. Sometimes as a host, you have to put them in, that whatever that comic just said is them themselves. They produced that, it's none of us. Punchline. But you have to be tactful.
Yes.
It also comes down to also wisdom.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's nice to want to trend, but then if it comes at a cost whereby someone can research you 7 years down the line, we saw what happened to, was it Chris
Kevin
Hart?
Kevin Hart, yeah.
Kevin Hart with the Oxters, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that people change. We always evolve. But if you're not mindful of the world we live in, whereby things are stored, the internet, they say the internet never forgets.
Yeah.
You have to be mindful, what will this mean to someone looking it down the line?
Yes.
And will it hinder my opportunities? However, there are tactful ways of doing it if you're skilled enough. We've seen Dave Chappelle do the same.
Yes.
If you're skilled enough, you put in the work, the man hours and respect, you can discuss something without discussing it and get away with it.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a really, really sharp legal mind that knows exactly where to tread without really stepping on the minefield. They say dancing on lasers.
Yes.
And so you have to be very careful where you are. In Tanzania, it's very different. You know, someone does something and you say, that person's phone is off and you might never see them again. This is just a scenario I'm giving. It never really happened at all.
Yes, never happened.
Yeah. But you have to just be very mindful where you are, the cultural implications, and also the future implications.
Yeah. I think Ian has something to add to that.
No, I mean, I agree with it. I think it's all about the skill. I mean, in America, obviously, it's a lot more loosely, but you still, people say canceled. I don't believe if you're making a joke, I mean, you got to, but there's also like, sometimes the old heads back in the States who had heat in like the 90s, they want to be able to talk how you talked in the 90s and the 80s, and it's just like we're not there yet. At least in the States, we're not there anymore. We've evolved, right? The words you used to be able to say back then, you can't say that now. A lot of people look at Eddie Murphy's Raw special. 90% of the stuff Eddie Murphy said in that special, he could never say now in the States. It just wouldn't apply. That's why a lot of people are interested in seeing him do it again, because it's like, could you do it without calling people gay? Or, you know, could you do it? You can't do that now. No network is going to have you do that. But like Evan said, if you have the skill, a lot of people just don't have the skill. People just want to come out. You can't just come out and be like, oh, you're gay, and think that's not funny. That's just it's just insulting a person. But if you have the skill, like Chappelle, you can talk about whatever you want. Yeah,
I think one of the things I always say before I give it to Deo is, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Yeah. It's how you say it. And I always say that for any comedian who's choosing to attack any subject matter, it cannot be trifle. It cannot just be easy. You must be able to put yourself in the position that the person you're speaking of or about is, so that by the time you're done writing that joke, you're writing from an objective position. Deo.
Yeah, so I was going to add something. So what we do is, essentially, the way I understand it, we create fiction, right? It's fiction that we create here. That's why the stories are not really true all the time, right? If not most of the time. So when you're creating fictions, there are subject matter that people are already used to hearing fiction come from. Family, blah, 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 blah. Right?
Yes.
But you also understand, as comedians, we sit in this very sweet position of, poking the culture and pushing it further. Now, I've struggled with this myself until I understood this. There is protecting the art form itself and pushing boundaries.
Yes.
Which you would need not only to be tactful, but you would also need to be a Dave Chappelle, because you're saying, I am standing for the whole entire scene. That takes chips. You gotta have some
sure.
not only a good comedian, but you gotta know the game. So I'm saying you cannot just start politics today and want to be the person that changes Kenya.
Yes.
You get what I mean?
Yeah.
Pace yourself. We gotta pace ourselves.
Yes.
So you shouldn't feel like your comedy is not working now because you cannot talk about those subjects or certain subjects. It should only motivate you because people want people to talk about those subjects. Yeah. They just don't want to be in the room when that stuff goes wrong, and I'm also in the crowd laughing to that stuff. Yeah. So they want to hear this stuff, but if you can make it fun.
Yeah. Nice. Ndumiso, I think it's only fair that you also put in a word.
Yeah, man. This thing that we do is like juggling a hot coal. You got 2 hot coals there, and as an audience member, all they want you to do is don't drop one of those hot coals. That's all. So if you can handle the subject matter, go ahead and do it. There's one thing I will never tell a comic to do is to say, yo, don't talk about that. Or if you can handle the subject and right up to the end, that's where the magic is. When the audience is like, oh, Flippy took it right up to the last punchline.
Yeah.
And for them, that's the magic. That's where you pull the rabbit.
The rabbit out of the hat.
And
that's dope.
I want to put something to add up to us, which is responsibility right now. It's also like, we're the people. This is Kenya, I am Tanzania. So there's also that aspect of we are also part of the culture. Yeah. And if it goes south, we will also say, what did the comedians of the time say?
Do or say, yes.
However, for you to participate in that war, call it as you may, war, movement, or whatever, you need to be a proper soldier first.
Yes.
All right?
That's the most important thing. You need the stripes, I think. You need the stripes. If you look at Chappelle's first special, he was not talking about what he's talking about now.
Yeah.
It was very simple observational stuff, and people still to this day say that's his best special.
Yeah.
He earned the stripes to be able to go up there with the whole culture on his back and say these things.
Yeah.
Now I see open mic is trying to do it, and you're just like...
Let's throw the curveball back to the audience right here. Who else had a question? Let's go Abdi. Let's keep them very short. Let's go Abdi, and then let's go John Master, and then let's go Gregory.
Thank you. My name is Abdi Mohammed, and I think all of you have seen me perform on Wednesday. And my question is, like, what type of style of comedy do you think is more suitable for a comedian like me, and like with my energy and everything? If that made sense.
Bro, I'll jump into that.
Yeah.
We don't have to tell you.
Yeah, we can't tell you that.
Yeah, I don't know.
No. Hear me out. We don't have to choose a style for you. You choose the style for yourself, and you develop into that style. You're going to as the more you perform. Hence, I've said the sooner you are out of that phase of being new and trying to figure out what you're doing, you just know this is who I am. Yeah. Whether you are deadpan or whether you are provocative or whether you are whatever, you know what I mean. You, not us. We don't
I don't think
one will decide
we can decide what type of comedian you can be. That's like you trying to ask us, what type of person do you think I should be?
Yeah,
brother, it's like dating.
Yes.
You don't really know what you like. I like this about that one. After a while, you realize that, I am into this kind of individual.
Just say us, Evans. You know what you're into, but yes.
Yeah, man, you'll figure it out, dude. Yeah. Don't worry about it. You'll figure it out. You just gotta keep doing it. Look, anybody that tell you should be deadpan, don't listen. Like no one could tell you that. Yeah. You figure it out. One day you'll be on stage and you'll be like, I think I got it. And then you won't have it. But you'll continue to grow and you'll continue to think that. And then that's the art. That's just it.
I saw you. I saw your set. And I was like, you brave already. Because you chose your line, but you don't realize it. You know, you were talking about ISIS, you were talking about this and that. I was like, okay, Holmes you're not there yet, but you just
there's
know.
Something, yes.
Yeah, there's something. It's like you're not doing what everyone is doing, but you like, what do you call it, rattle the cage a bit?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, work on your confidence. Because if you're going to deliver those with that doubt, then your audience is going to be like,
yeah, no, he's not.
Yeah.
You have to commit to who you want to be. If you choose a bit, do not go half-ass on it. John Master, please step up to the microphone. Guys, we have just a limited amount of time, so please move closer if I've just said you're going to be there. I think, Gregory, you're next, so we don't need your introductions. We're going to cut those out.
Okay, so no problem. Can I just say my name?
You can say it, but it won't appear. No, I'm kidding.
So
This is their chance for fame. They're like, I said my name on a podcast with all these greats. Go ahead.
So my name's John Mungai, aka Master, and thank you so much for the opportunity. Now, a question is, which I normally get at my household, is if in 5 years this thing doesn't work, what will you do? Now, my question is, how many years did it take all of you guys to fully depend on your career as stand-up comedians?
I can start right now.
Yeah.
I don't fully depend on comedy as my career.
Yes.
It still doesn't pay as comedy.
Okay.
There's no written hard and fast formula. Yeah? 12 years, 5 years, 7 years. The whole thing is that you're also evolving as a comic. You're evolving as a human being. I've got so many side hustles. You see me, I'm MC here, I've done radio, I've done TV work, I've done production. And it doesn't really end, in my perspective. But I don't think there's like a hard and fast number if you're looking for it. Yeah?
Yeah.
Like 5 years.
Yeah. I don't think there's a hard and fast number. For me, it took me about 7 years. That's just me. But 7 years, I was doing stand-up in New York City every single night. Like, every single night, I was getting up 3 to maybe 5 times a night for 7 years. Like, that's how much stand-up I was doing in the capital of stand-up.
And how many minutes on average was that?
5 minutes. It was just 5 minutes.
Whoa,
That's
yes.
another thing. Real quick, I have to say this about the scenes, because I've been to new scenes. Like, I've gotten the opportunity to see evolving scenes. I went to Turkey, I went to Israel, Aruba, Dominican Republic. They all have new stand-up scenes. And a lot of times, the people there, they'll look at, like, us in New York and be like, wow, I wish I was there. I would be doing that. You guys don't know how difficult it is to start over there. Like, like the show you guys did on Wednesday, that type of show in New York City, you guys would never be able to do that. Like, comedians at your level would never be able to do that in New York City. Like, that show would be reserved for the headliners. It would just be the headliners with Netflix, HBO, they would do that show, and you guys would be performing at open mics for 7 people who are comics and don't listen to you. So there is plus about being in an evolving scene. You guys have the opportunity to perform for real people, like, often. You don't get that in a major city. You're just doing open mics. It's so much competition there, and you guys have the opportunity to perform that. So that's, like, great. That's, like, one of the positives. That's great. Whenever you guys get the chance to do those shows, do them, because you don't get to do them in other cities unless you're, like, one of the big guys.
I personally want to say this, and I've always said this, is that one of the things Punchline Comedy Club is very big on is that a lot of stand-up comedians, even in the US, even in the UK, even in South Africa, do not entirely make their money when they're on stage. We have a lot of people who are script writers, we have a lot of people who are actors, we have a lot of people who are MCs, we have a lot of people who are doing all different things on the scene that is revolving maybe around comedy, or it is kind of removed from comedy. But if in your head right now you think to yourself, I want to depend 100% on stand-up comedy, that is a fallacy that might fail you. And the reason is, when you think about someone like Trevor Noah does The Daily Show. That is a steady check. He's able to do something that he loves in a way that is not necessarily on stage every single time. So the idea is this, and I feel like we've said this a lot of times. With Punchline Comedy Club, you can learn production. You can learn editing. You can learn screenwriting. You can learn acting. You can learn directing. You can learn color correction. All of those things are at your hands. The idea that comedy or being on the stage is the thing that is going to make you your money, You need to understand that it's a very competitive, very difficult, but more than anything, very unfair. Because you might be the funniest, you might be the hardest working person, but eventually there's someone who's going to make a silly meme on TikTok and that person blows up. And we've seen it right here. So my advice to anyone is do the thing that you love and find a way to do the thing that you love with other things that you enjoy that then puts money in your pockets. There's no solid timeline. If I was to say about stand-up comedy giving me money, stand-up comedy has lost me money. Yeah.
For me, man, I do stand-up, right? So I was in advertising, 2009. I was still doing stuff. So I started stand-up, 2003 when I was still studying. Graduated 2004. Started working, but I was still doing stand-up. 2009, I was like, I'm jumping ship. I'm just gonna focus on this thing, see where it takes me. If it's not working out, I'm going back to advertising, right? And I'm still doing stand-up, right? But if you wanna choose that, of course, as he says, it comes with other things like TV work or corporate work or whatever. You put all your own shows, but it's development. But you need to be hungry for it. You need to go, because at some point I was the only one maybe at the time who was doing gigs around Africa. Like Nigeria. I've done Nigeria like 6-7 times. I did Ghana. I did, and then
even Kenya,
Uganda. So I was that person. Now you've got a lot. You've got Celeste Nduli, you've got Pops, you've got some other ones, Dumurake now, So it's that thing, for me, I was like, I chose this path, I'm going in. I'm going, find myself in London, find myself doing festivals in Switzerland. But so you need to push. You can't sit now and say, I'm gonna wait for gigs. And then if there's an opportunity to learn more crafts like writing and all the kind of stuff, hey man, go ahead and do it. If you still think your 9 to 5 is still feeding you while you still growing this passion on the side, hold on. Just give it some time, right? Take that money and put it here, and then be like, I want to go and perform in Uganda or whatever neighboring country, fly to whatever, until it starts picking up fit and you do your thing. So yeah, I wouldn't put years, man. Yo, we've seen it in the US, as he says, more years in experience, then people blow up, or you could just arrive in the US, some things happen that you never know. They just pop for you. So I never want to put a time frame, or it really is your hustle.
Deo?
So from your question, you're asking how you can depend on it. Now let me tell you this, because I have been trying to pull off a chapelle for a while, and I've had to learn these lessons the hard way. All right, so take it from me. So first things first, the first mistake that I made, I thought there was sort of a ladder that you climb. And that's what makes you want to go to America, because they got these clubs. So you imagine it's like a whop, 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 whop. Then you whop. Then yeah, I'm everywhere. First of all, that ladder doesn't exist anywhere in the world. And the second thing that comes off of that you learn over time is stand-up is business. It is business. So if for instance, let's say Diamond Platnumz decided to go into stand-up for just 6 months, chances of him getting a Netflix deal are bigger than me. Do you get what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it comes back to the numbers. The distributors are thinking, if I put him out in the market, will I get sales? So if your goal is to live off of what, let's say, like what Dave is doing, let's just assume that stand-up is all that he does and he makes money out of that, you need to understand that this thing is like boxing, right? So now you're working on you're working on your skills. Yeah. Then you after that, in a way, while doing that, you're gonna have to work on your promotion when you're ready. My favorite example for that would be Lomachenko, Vasil Lomachenko. He's a boxer. He did 300 fights, amateurs, got into the US, just got the proper promotion. Why did they pick him? Because he's got 300 fights. He's one. If I put this kid in here with this history, he might sell some tickets. They put him there, he delivers. So, first thing first, you work on the craft. Then you get into this whole business of getting not really famous. It has to be, you have to be famous, sort of. You see, what Dave is selling, if you ask me, is his personal opinions about stuff, framed in jokes. Now, why should people care about your personal opinions? Who are you? Who are you?
Yeah.
So you need to answer that question, who are you? When you answer that, Netflix will call, or you will call them and to deal.
Gregory, please step up to the microphone and tell us what your question is. Let's circulate so that once you've asked your question, you can like sort of move and give space to other people. Abdi, Nam, yes. Go ahead, Gregory.
Hi, I just wanted to ask, what's your favorite joke right now and why?
Okay, just one-liners, please. Wow. This is moving very fast.
Really?
Let's start with Deo. I think.
Man, I'm the last to speak.
Okay, Ndumiso.
Do I have what?
From my book or?
No, just a joke you think about.
Jeez, bruh. Nah, so many. And I don't want to be telling other people's jokes on top of that. You know? Yeah, that one joke by Barry Hilton, I'll share that. That's an oldie. You know, that's like a classic for me. But for other comics, I can't think of one now, to be honest.
Okay, what's the one that makes you laugh all the time, apart from this? Let's go that way. Apart from that Barry Hilton.
Yeah.
Is there one that you just can't keep on laughing at? Is there anything like that?
Yeah, you guys.
Favorite.
I think that's you can have this chat with everyone after this. Go ahead. Charles, please come up. Yep.
So my name is Ben Lewis. I have a question that how do you juggle between the character on stage and the person? Like just to protect your mental health and everything. Because I meet people on the street, they like tell me a joke. You know, there's a difference between the character and the person. How do you juggle being big comedians the way you are?
I will start with this one. I don't believe that on stage I'm a character. I also don't believe that human beings are one-dimensional. We're multi-dimensional. So you can find me when I'm teaching and I'm this particular person. You can find me when I'm having dinner with my wife and I'm this particular person. And that does not mean that you switch it on or you switch it off. They say you go on stage to perform. You are a performer. But as a stand-up comedian, you're always under the weight of a lot of what you're talking about is you. So how invested are you in what you're talking about and to who you're talking about? So I would say the way you juggle that is try as much as possible to be, and this is me quoting a South African comedian who was here, Chris Mapani. He said, be the you that you are off stage when you're on stage. And the reason for that is then you have lots of audiences that are extremely intelligent. I have seen people go on stage and try and become a character and audiences see right through them. That does not mean you cannot amplify a part of who you are, increase that or reduce that. The idea is be able to embrace and be comfortable enough in yourself. Because if you're going in there as an actor, we have a lot of people who are actually method actors like Christian Bale. And he was talking on a podcast and he said the fact that he goes into method acting and immerses himself into like a character has messed with his mind. It has cost him a lot. So my personal opinion is you are made up of everything that you speak about on stage. And if that is so, all you're doing is either increasing the volume or reducing it. But stay true to yourself. That's my take. I might be wrong.
I mean, I think you just got to do it and figure it out, man. I don't necessarily disagree, but I know comedians, there's comedians in the States who were one guy for a long, I mean, Andrew Dice Clay is a character. Yeah. He's not an Italian, he's a Jewish man that became this character and sold out Madison Square Garden. There's tons of them. There's Larry the Cable Guy. I don't know if you guys know, Larry the Cable Guy does arenas in the States still to this day. Larry the Cable Guy is a character. He's not some white redneck. Yeah. He's a Jewish guy who just became a character. So you got to figure it out. He figured that works for him. Now he's a millionaire. So I'm not going to tell you, don't do it. I'm just going to tell you, do stand up and figure out what works for you. I don't know. I can't tell you.
Yeah, I completely concur. And I'm seeing a line of questioning that kind of like is asking, you know, how to shield me from potential damage or hurt. The truth is, it's like when you're walking as a baby, you didn't ask those questions because you haven't quite gotten the conscience yet. But you just try to walk and you fall, and you try to walk and you crawl and you fall. And this whole process of discovering yourself is what will grow you. Whatever you become, for whatever reason. I've seen so many characters who are one person on stage, completely different off stage. I am very much me on stage, but it all depends what you. But the whole point is, do it, continue doing it, don't stop. You'll discover and get comfortable with a persona. Whether it's true or not, it's up to you, but you'll discover something, go with it.
It's also nice to remember that you practice to be that dude for 15 minutes, 12 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. You do practice to be that dude. You get what I mean? You have to practice to be that dude on stage. So there's a gap there between, I don't know, I would call the regular you, or no, so just don't get lost in that. That guy, and especially with these comedy groupies now, they will they will try to have the same dude they saw on stage in bed.
No, in the other stage. It's like
in the other stage.
You are performing in
horizontal
both.
Stage.
You're performing in both. Just So they come with they come with the expectations, but over time, if you stay true to yourself,
man. For me, I would say whatever you choose works. Whatever you choose, man. You want to be an alter ego on stage, be that alter ego on stage. You want to be yourself. Some people, especially with comedians, they're chameleons, you know. There's a dark part that they're hiding. Or personally for me, it was this whole thing of not being given that spotlight at home, you know, to voice myself, to give my own opinion or whatever. So on stage, when I started, I was just a regular Joe, like t-shirt, cap, whatever, you know, jeans. And then until one comic said, look, you got it, man, but work on your image. What's this? You look like every guy, you know? And then the minute I started dressing up, started putting on a tie or shirt or my hat, especially the hat, then I realized I became another person, you know? Not that I didn't like that person. I wanted to be that person because I was like confident. I stepped up. And to a point I was like my dad on stage, you know? When I step up, my voice changes, my demeanor, you know? And then it got to a point where I couldn't perform without my head on. You know, it just felt weird.
It never stops.
Dude, I lost my head. I don't know which town I was performing in. Then I lost my head, and we have a gig the next day. I'm nervous as fuck. I'm like, oh, flip, you know, jitters and stuff. But I'm flip. I'm 42 now. I don't give a fuck.
You know, it would be amazing if Ndumiso lost that heart and someone found it, and then it turned out it's like a magic heart. And now there's a guy who's just killing out there. Yeah, he's just killing it out there. Like, woo!
So yeah, man, we can't give you the blueprint for that. You figure it out.
If you have an idea for a character, do it. I don't want to be here telling you don't do it. You got $1 million character of a Kenyan. Do it. Try it out. See if it works.
Shaz, please step up to the microphone, and then I think you'll step up to the microphone. So if you're hoping to have a question, just please line up here, and then we can try and wrap this up. These gentlemen have a long night ahead of them.
They do.
Yes.
Hello, lads.
I'm just seeing my producer showing me the light. I think we can do a Q&A. That's 2 hours. We can do a separate Q&A segment of the podcast on there. Yes, Shaz.
Why does the light always come up when I get on stage, Grace?
No. It was just time.
Okay. Hi, lads.
Hey.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hi.
So I have it's a one question, but it's 2-part.
Yeah.
I just thinking about what's happening in comedy for a lot of us. So the negative side of comedy, and the thing that I wanted to ask you is how you deal with the the downside of comedy in terms of what's happening in your personal lives. I asked this particularly to you, Ndumiso, because I would have loved to see you perform the show that was like an homage to your dad who had passed away, and I didn't get to. But I thought, oh my goodness, how do you turn this tragedy into something wonderful? Because it's something I'm working through. Before the first Cinderella, I lost my mom, and then now I've lost my dad, and I keep telling people, stop dying. I want to write about other things, you know. Yeah. But I'm curious to know how you guys, attack really, really personal things and bring them on stage, because I know it's powerful. Ooh. I know it's powerful, and I know it's beautiful, but I'd like to know what your process is. So for the personal side, but also for the business of comedy. So one of the things that we are facing on the local scene, and I'm sure it's happened in your scenes, is the different clubs or groups. There's divisiveness. There's different things there's a politics of comedy, and I feel like that affects a lot of comedians in a very personal way. It affects your income, but it also affects where you choose to perform and all of that. And I'm very curious to know what's been your experience of it and what you would tell people who are, especially people who want to be career comics. You know, what do they do? What would be something you would say has worked in your industries and in your own lives? Also, since you also my set, do you think I should date the thug I was talking about? Because listen, people are asking you for feedback on their sets. Me, I want feedback on mine.
I'll answer quickly. I lost my mom too. I lost my mom like about 11 days before I was supposed to film my HBO special. And we had to postpone it for a year, and it's just bad. There's no like way around it. It's just bad. Some people like make jokes about it, and that's how they get through. I'm still not able to do that. I still haven't found that funny in it to bring it on stage. But I think it's the same thing. You figure it out as you go by. You figure it out. One day you might get a joke. It might start from one joke that you make about the deaf, and you be like, oh, that's funny, and then you go from there, and you might have a whole show before you know it. So I think it's like grief. You just kind of figure it out and see whenever you're ready. You might not ever be ready to talk about it, and that's fine too. Like whatever you decide about how you deal with the grief, it's fine. There's no right or wrong way. And the scene thing between the beef and comedy clubs, that is a cancer to a comedy scene. It is imperative to the owners of the club, whoever are the head guys, to sit down and give the most opportunities possible to people to perform. The beef between clubs does not help a scene. It hurts a scene and it kills a scene. You need to provide stages for people to perform. If you own a club and your best interest is to provide stages to perform a club, you need to allow your people to perform at the other club and get on stage as much as possible if your desire is really to foster young talent. Because young talent needs stage time. So it's imperative to have as many stages as possible and if you can, sometimes business is business and business is ugly. And it's hard when one person is, not cooperating, it's hard. But if you can, you have to allow everyone to perform as much as possible.
Yeah, second part, all what he said. First part, for me, I lost my dad 2018. Yeah. I lost my dad 2018. And it was a knock. Yeah. Like it just hits you. And especially because in my culture, you raised to, and also you can ask any African guy, you raised to like boys don't cry and you need to hard and you need to be the man, and and that time I fell apart. I was like, fuck all of that. I'm feeling this. The more I try to resist it, the more I'm falling apart, Until my wife was like, yo, man, I can't deal with you. You need to see somebody. I'm like, someone who was like, go to a what do you call it, a psychologist, therapist. Yeah. I'm like, I'm not weak. Yeah. But I end up finding myself there. I think on our second session, she was like, why don't you take, because we had just finished a session and she was busy picking her stuff, like, why don't you take this stuff you tell me and put it on stage? And then I realized something also during that session. I talk a lot about my mom in my stand-up. From the start, since I started comedy, my mom, even people knew that he's gonna say something about his mom, because our bond is tight like that. My dad, it's not that our bond was not tight, it's just like I was scared of him, So I was like, should I make a joke about him? Nah, I'm gonna offend him or whatever, Then one day he was like, yeah, you always make jokes about your mom. What about me? But inside I'm like, oh, with that screensaver. So when he passed, I was like, and then after that session, I was like, yeah, she's right. I'm gonna do a whole show dedicated to him, And that became an assignment for me. It was not an easy one, because as comics, we go through, in our heads, in our minds, you have to go through that dark room you've been avoiding to go get those gems. It's not about going there, it's about coming out now. Because if you get stuck there, that's where depression and all these things happen. And Robin Williams, I feel like he got stuck in his head there, you know. So the more you perform, that's your way of walking out of that dark room, you know, and it feels light. So the more I was doing this show, I called it Boys Don't Cry. At first, the original title was Boys Don't Cry in July, because that's the month my dad passed on. But every time I was like, Boys Don't Cry in July, happening October, everyone is like, so we're gonna see you in July. I'm like, it's not saying Boys Don't Cry in July, it's saying, you know what I mean? So now I had to shorten
I like the title though.
Exactly.
I really like the Boys Don't Cry in July though.
Now I had
like
to shorten
it.
to just Boys Don't Cry, you know? So it became a task for me, and it came fast. The show just came in my head. It just kept on coming. And I remember I booked 4 nights at this theater. The first 2 shows, weird. Like, because I realized I'm still attached to the pain. And they could feel it, you know? So then I was like, okay, when I deliver this thing, I need to keep the emotion to me and then remember that I'm still a comedian, you know? It's a slow process. By the time I did the 4th show, it just clicked. I was just smooth, right straight to it, you know? So now the more I do the show, it's like now I'm flowing with it. Anywhere I book it, I know I'm cool, because you don't want to lose a lot of that emotion, because that's what makes the gags work. You know what I mean? Because now also it was a new thing for me, because I used to just perform for people and it just laughs from start to finish. But now I'm taking them through a journey of laugh, feel sad, feel like crying, laugh again, feel, you know what I mean? It's a journey. And they walk out there feeling like, fuck, wow, what was that? Was that stand-up? Was that a bit of a solo show? What was that? You know what I mean? And I also don't know if a name for it or a title for it, but it's not for, personally for me, it's not for the people, it's for me. It's for my healing. So yeah, it's your task. You will know when it's ready. As much as Ian says also, that he's not ready for it. If you don't rush yourself. You'll just know when it's time and how you're gonna honor the person that, yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I still got both my primes.
Congratulations.
Wow, that's so
nice.
dark, you motherfucker.
That's very nice.
Okay.
Talk about that. What's that like?
All right. So this is the realm of psychology, and I'm interested in that. So what I will say is I'll point it to a bit of psychology, Jungian psychology, which speaks of the collective conscious and the collective and the individual consciousness. So also the collective unconscious and the individual unconsciousness. So what would be your individual is things about you that you don't know that keep coming up sometimes. We are all like that. That's called being a person. All right. So what I wanted to point you to is this fact that we as jesters, and this is very beautiful. When you go to the human psychology, one of the archetypes that exists as an archetype is not the musician, is the jester. This ability to laugh at your pain in a way after you transcend it or something. So if we are the jesters of the community, it means their collective unconscious is speaking through us. And the only way we can connect with people is if we are people. So this whole thing is part of the process. It's part of you being part of it's how you service, because you wouldn't know how to talk about it if you didn't go through it. Do you get what I mean? So it is sort of, it's also making us up. The way he ended up is, so you went through that, and then he had to write, and then you had to learn to perform that. This is kind of therapy. And then the way your show came out, you did not know it would come out that way. So there's a power here speaking. So you did not know you would get to a point where you would be hand, and you would take one hand, and you take the hand, and you did not know that. But I am willing to bet you that show would connect to more people, because again, people are coming to the show to find themselves in us. So we gotta be humans to be comedians. That's what I'm gonna say. So
Yeah. I think, like everything, time is a healer, but time is not fixed. Yeah. And all these things depends on how close you were, the things you wish you would have said to whoever you just lost, for example. Sorry for your loss. I remember I broke down in an interview. And it wasn't a stunt or anything. I just found myself like, she says, how's your brother? And I'm like, I lost my brother. And I was like, and then I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like a man, you're trying to... And then I just broke down and realized maybe I didn't grieve enough. Africans, we don't communicate very well, especially with parents, and we always have this gap. For example, even our parents' bedrooms usually is like a
sanctuary.
Yeah,
you can't get,
no, sanctuary, like a state house. You don't know what's there. You know it's there, but you don't know because you
can't go in. That's
given
what
access.
Yeah,
because we're so far away from our own parents. We don't have those conversations about just how do you feel about this? What color? What's your favorite color? Who's your? You don't have those conversations, and so I find that there's that Kubler-Ross grief cycle. That initially there's a shock, and then there's the kind of like you're bargaining, like why did this happen? And then there's the anger, and then finally there's acceptance. But it takes time, depends on all the issues involved. So giving yourself time, but you also must talk about that particular issue with whoever's closest to you.
Yeah.
You don't have to put it on stage. I remember going through a terrible breakup. And for the longest time, my business partners tell me, hey, talk about that stuff on stage. I'm like, no. That's like, I'm not ready. If you're not ready, you're not ready. But it doesn't mean that others' life doesn't continue. And so with regards to things pertaining to grief, is give yourself time, but also when you're in your personal life, you must be communicating. Right now, there are stories you might hear about whoever you lost. Is it your mom?
Your dad.
Both your parents? These stories will start coming up. Like, yeah. And like, really? Yeah, I'll tell you. And all of these things help the healing process. All right? So that's about the grief. But on the other side, about the stages and the importance of young comics to have a stage, that's so key. Stage time is like credits for university students. You need credits. You need time on stage. Now, it's really unfortunate when we get the whole, no offense, East Coast, West Coast kind of vibe when we're all on the East Coast, if you think about it, East Africa.
I'm Nigerian, that's what.
But the whole point is like, we're too young for that. The platform must grow. We all need stage time. I've done more stage time in the last 3-4 years than I have since I started in 2009. You start a program, but then you're on your own, you have to do it. And I was doing I was looking at an hour every month. Like at one show, 1 hour. It's like a special. And like 75% of that material is new material. But you can't grow that material. Yeah. You can't develop it. So I think it's really important we have to agree to sit down and chart a way forward. But it is a business. So us as Punchline Africa, teaming with Punchline Comedy Club Nairobi, we've put down money, time, resources to make sure people get access to different markets to grow. But not only for them, when others see them going to another country, them having an experience through a flight or through an incident, or I had a really beautiful hotel, that means they get content, but other people aspire to want to become bigger, better, greater, which means that we're helping the system. But that comes at a cost. So that's the business model now. So I tell this all the time, don't use stand-up as your primary source of income and say, I need this to make me money. I think that's the wrong way of going about it. I think you should really invest in resources, and your best resource is your time. Volunteer as much as you can to something you're interested in, and you can add value to someone else. And in that process, 1, you might find an employee. 2, you find stories and you'll discover more about yourself. All right? But people just want really get a fast track to the monies. And that is not going to happen. I don't care how great you are. That's not going to happen initially, or you can't sustain it if it does happen. If you win a competition right now, you have to sustain it. I don't see Deo winning 2 million shillings every single month ever since he won that money in 2016.
Yeah.
Right? It's hard. It's
It was 9, 1,
One
yeah,
thousand.
yeah.
Ever since
The
you won, you
10,000
won
is still
million.
lost.
Hebu chukua hiyo hela yako.
You know the money's in the back pocket. He looked right here, but the money's here. Also, no scene in the world. There's no comedy scene in the world that is like a highlighted scene that has one comedy club. It's not sustainable. For a scene to work, sure, there'll be the A room, like the Punchline or the Comedy Cellar in New York, but New York has 8 comedy clubs. You need a bunch of venues to perform in. No city has just one.
I want to answer this, although I should recuse myself from this. Let's start with grief. For a very long time, I didn't deal with my parents' death. And I don't know how many people were there last year. At some point, I was closing the show, and I just said, I wish my parents were here to see this. It was a very difficult moment for me. Because with everything I've done in my life, I think my greatest pride is Punchline Comedy Club. There's nothing I feel that has touched that, because it has touched so many people's lives. So for me to be able to share that with people that I was always looking for, sort of like them to just say, you've done well, because some of us were really starved of that. I remember my mom once told me, you're a high achiever. I'm never going to come and see a report card. I'm not coming to a parent's day. I'm not coming to a teacher's day, because you know what's expected of you. And she never did. And so for me, it was always about seeking that validation. And so for me to be able to create this, and for me to have people, friends and family and stuff come see their kids perform, or come and tell me like, this was really good, it's a great opportunity you've created. The one thing I always look for is for someone to actually say like, you did well, you've done well. And last year, I think my brother came for the first Distant Relatives, and he sat right there, and when everything was done and said, and he's always been very supportive, but he was like, I wish they were here. And even now, that for me is very emotional. So I'm working through that. So grief is something that you sort of like, you navigate. And I think Shaz and I have had this conversation, like long conversations around grief and getting on stage and all of that. But it's very personal, it's very difficult. So that's number one. Now, comedy clubs that have politics, have differences, have a lot of those things. The thing that we must understand is that when everything is said and done, the people who start scenes, the people who start clubs, there's a price, and this is a quote from Ty, there's a price to pioneership. And that price is love, that price is time, that price is friendships, that price is money, that price is emotion. And a lot of times, it's very easy for people who are on the outside to be able to say, this is what needs to be done for this to be good. But for the people who are in the fire, and this is me talking as someone who's in the fire, it is always extremely difficult. And especially if you make overtures. And so in as much as I would say beef is not good for anyone, every single person on this stage said something. It all boils down to business. And I always tell comedians who are either on our platform, on other platforms, or any other thing, we could be wrong. We could be very wrong. There's a possibility that we could be wrong. But you must always remember that this is a decision that a person who has invested time, money, emotions, and everything has taken and is like, this is the way I want to go. And so when you sit at Apple or you sit at Microsoft and all of these places, they never go, computing is great for everyone, because computers are great for everyone. But Apple says, we will not allow side loading of apps on our platform. And Windows says, we'll allow side loading of apps on some of our platforms. And open source says, do whatever the fuck you want. I think the one thing I always say is that for every person who's in the scene, who's pioneering a scene, your heart must be in the right place, because we do not benefit from that platform. The people who benefit and the people who get hurt are the people who are within that scene. So I would say this as someone who's in the fire, and I speak very passionately about this. At the end of the day, that investment is basically led in a certain way. And when you've already invested time, money, emotion, friendships, relationships, all of that stuff, there are decisions that you'll make that might be wrong, that might be right. But those, at the end of the day, it's a business decision. So the thing that we forget with comedy clubs is it's not like work. We don't consider comedy work. We consider it something, like it's play, it's this. That's why you're like, oh, there's politics, there's this, there's this, there's this, there's this. But think about a job. If you are at a job and you're a freelancer and this and this and this, you can do all of that. So my response to that, and I speak about this very emotionally, is please try and understand that this is business. And at the end of the day, there are people who make business decisions that are either detrimental, and that could be me, that could be a competitor, that could be anything. But at the end of the day, every time you sit down there, you need to understand that both these people, all of these different places have paid the price of pioneership. That's it. It's business, and I think Michael Corleone said this. It's not personal. Sometimes it just boils down to business. Yeah. We're closing. We really need to wrap things up. I think Nelly will have a question. Shembetsa, Zek, and Kinuthia. Yes.
Okay.
Very quickly.
Quick one. My name is Lumumba. Now, for you guys, from speaking, I can feel like you guys, the ride has been smooth for you guys. Have you ever bombed?
Please sit down. Please sit down, sir. Just sit down.
Bukuku, you remember that one last thing that goes with the grief bombing. You remember the day my girlfriend broke up with me?
Yeah, I remember. I was about to bring it up. I was thinking, hey.
Just bring it up. Tell him.
Now, how did you overcome it?
No, I went on stage and died.
I don't even know if he's overcome it, but he died, and I was like, ee. You see, it's like a crash in slow motion. This girl is dying, and we're like, we're not used to seeing Deo die like this. Because some jokes might not work, but you always have a pickup. You have a joke that will never fail you. But it was like he was being shot in slow motion.
How stupid, man. I just got a text.
And even the audience were feeling, because when you die, the audience wants the best for you.
Yeah.
Especially if it's like a new audience. They're like, why are you dying? Save yourself. No, I'm going to be like, what's his name on Titanic? I'm going to die. I'm like, eh. But I can see that. That was grief.
I got a text. This woman broke up with me on the way to that show.
Bitch.
And when I got there, I decided I'm going to tell some jokes about this. I talked to Sadiq. I said, I've got this idea, of two voices in my head that were going on at the time. So one voice would be like, yeah, you're the man. And the other one would be like, let's just get back together. And then I thought I could make this. I've not even been able to make it funny today. So I tried to make it funny right there. Then it wasn't funny, and people could genuinely feel that this guy is still
going
hurting.
through some shit.
And I died properly.
But the dying is a way of life.
Yeah.
I say before a show, sometimes I say if you have to die, die in style. Yeah. You die in style.
Die with dignity.
Yeah.
I have to ask though. I have to ask. Have you developed the idea?
No, I haven't. Now just I should.
But it just needed some time. You just develop.
Probably I'm still hurting. Who knows?
Ian?
Yeah, man, for sure. It's part of the thing. You bomb all the time. Only advice I was bombing is natural. Don't become one of those guys that bombs on purpose. Always do your best. Yeah. It's gonna come. It'll come alone. You don't need. Sometimes you see comedians that say just trying to bomb. It's like, why? Try to be funny. You'll bomb. Also, you don't have to try. So it's just part of the thing. But as long as you're trying, just try.
Yeah, man. You bomb, Brian. You feel like the whole world saw that show. Or you perform for 30 people, and it feels like even China hates you. Yeah. You don't want to wake up the next day and stuff. So, to be quick, the best advice I got from a seasoned comic called Mel Miller, he said, I'll give you this advice. If you do well on stage, you kill standing ovations and stuff, don't take it to your head. If you bomb, don't do well, don't take it to your heart.
Nice.
That's it.
I like that. By the way,
that's it.
My first experience
don't
bombing.
Take it to your head.
My first experience, not first experience bombing, but my first experience with people commenting about my dying on stage.
Yeah.
was when we invited KG from South Africa and Carl Weber. And so I was hosting. And first of all, I was like, how do you bomb as a host? But anyway, so I go backstage after inviting the first comic. And KG's like, ooh, you are dying. And he was laughing. And I was quite offended, like, why are you laughing at my baby? But that helped me, like, it's just bombing. It's not the end of the world. It's the process of learning. True. So now go and do better. Bas.
Life is a dying process. Life itself is a dying process. Even I've learned to realize that about comedy. So there is potentially, right now, right? There's potentially the best version of a comedian that you are right now. But the only thing that's standing between that and you is because there are parts of you that are blocking that guy for whatever reasons that you have made up in your mind. And when you die, think of it that way, that the parts of you that are preventing that guy from coming out, they're the parts that are dying so that you can. So look forward to dying, because I
like how we've just fucked up the algorithm. Like there's so much death in this that they're like downvote.
Yo, hold on. I have to say, I enjoy watching comics die.
Sadistic. My personal take on this has always been, you have good day. So here's something that I even say in my personal life. It's a bad day, it's not a bad life. It's a bad day, it's not a bad life. So you can die today or you can bomb today and then the next day you have a great day. So do not let a great day define your comedy career, and do not let a bad day define your comedy career.
Sorry, can I add on to that?
Yes.
About basically losing the battle, but you're thinking about winning the war. And I'd like to ask Ian, because most people don't quite know about these things, we don't see it. Which big comic have you seen bomb, or do you know has bombed?
Chris Rock, probably the most. I see, but he'll go up like trying to, and it's not a bomb like it's silence, but like he'll go up like trying new stuff, and he'll get laughs here and there. But at a club like the Comedy Cellar, like it's laughs per minute, like they come fast. So when he'll go up, those will drop drastically because he's doing like new stuff and reading off a notebook, and then like I'll have to follow him again, but then I'll go like I'm doing my A stuff, so then the thing will pick up, so it'll look like like he bombed, but it's only because I'm doing the best stuff I got and he's doing what he just thought of earlier that day. So I seen Chris Rock, I seen Louis C.K. have tough ones, I seen Kevin Hart have tough ones, I seen Seinfeld, all of them.
Here's the thing,
Flip. No, sorry. You know what you just pointed out now is he did his stuff and he knows this works. Chris Rock did stuff that he was testing. I asked you guys before we started this, when you stepped off stage on that night, what did you learn and what did you want to fix? So that's what now Chris Rock was like, okay, this didn't work, that didn't, you know what I mean? He gained more than
there's a lesson,
The biggest flip I've seen with that is Aziz. I don't know, you guys know Aziz Ansari. Like a year ago, I saw Aziz. He's living in London now, and he came to the United States, and he went on stage at the Comedy Cellar, and I kid you not, it was like a TED Talk. It was just like him saying stuff, and it was no laughs. And he did about 25 minutes. I then went on the road, and I came back like maybe a month later, and I saw him at the Comedy Cellar, and he did about an hour, and they were bits now. Like, I was like, how did this happen in a month? They were full murderous bits where I was like, wow, like these guys are operating on a different level.
I was in the Comedy Cellar in 2018, and Tracy Morgan came in when Michelle Wolf was on stage, and he was making noise in the back, and then he went on stage and just... Have you ever seen your hero just...
Bomb?
Yeah,
he bombs a lot.
Like, he just... Like, you could... And this is someone that you've been...
podcast is going up everywhere.
No, but Tracy will tell you himself. Tracy, I mean, he murders too. I mean, like, he bombs like trying, trying new stuff.
So, like, bombing, all the greats bomb. Everyone bombs.